Welcome to this Reckon APS Practice Management Month-End Procedures video. Let's have a look at our agenda today. We'll look at the four main areas of preparation for getting ready for month-end. We'll follow the step-by-step process to complete your WIP month-end procedures and debtor month-end procedures, and finally take a look at the post-month-end and final completion steps. So firstly, getting ready. Notification and processing of transactions in timesheets, disbursements, fees and debtors should cease for the current period in order to roll over. We're often asked, when is this optimal? When do practices roll over their month end? Typically this is done within 1 to 2 days of your period end, which is normally a calendar month. So within 1 to 2 days of that finishing, you should be rolled over into the next period. Some people prefer to inform their IT administrator to take a manual backup of the Reckon APS database if there is no scheduled time for this to happen in the evening and after you've finished your processing. So a manual backup can be done and kept. In the unlikely event that you would need to restore that backup, you do have that. Staff should be out of timesheets, disbursements, fees and debtors when you're processing your month end. This can be achieved in 2 ways. Depending on the size of the practice, it could be as simple as notifying everyone by email or internal forums. Or if the practice is larger, then you might use the Joe Admin security to lock the users out of those applications, or at least from posting in those applications whilst you're doing your month end. You can certainly have people using timesheets, but you just need to take off their posting rights when you're doing your month end. They can enter time, but we don't want them to post. We don't want any posting done that is not controlled so that your reports will reconcile and be as expected. So let's have a look at the month end steps. Step 1. Disbursements. You should ensure that you've used your filter in your disbursements to make sure that you've filtered for the current date or the period, and review the statuses to make sure that all your disbursements have been entered, completed and posted. Once this has been done, you can move on to the next step. Step 2. Complete and post timesheets. Open your timesheet administration application. Go to the period that you wish to complete. Ensure that all the weeks in the month have been posted. And if there's any active weeks, you need to make sure that all the timesheet entries have been complete. If they're not complete, ask the users by either right-clicking and email them to say you need to complete your timesheet. You might know this if you've worked with timesheet administration. You might also notice that you have some active users. If you know that that is complete, you can launch their timesheet for them, go and post the timesheet and complete it yourself as system administrator. However, saving you doing that every time for every week for the same users, I would recommend that you do educate your staff to do it themselves. Once those timesheet weeks are complete, you then system admin post by using the post button here. Some users also do a right click and do an integrity check before posting. If nothing happens, like in this case, it means the week is fine. Post the timesheets and ensure that the month has been completed. Step 3. Fees. Ensure that you have all your fee batches posted and if possible clear them. You can view all batches by using view all batches in case there's other people's fees in there, and these have been posted. Ensure that they've been printed and release them from the fee batch. If you haven't had time to print them, you may leave them in your list. It is optional that they be cleared at this point. Step 4. Complete the period audit for your WIP month end. This is an optional step that we've included in our recommendation. WIP, unlike debtors, does not need to have a forced period close. However, if we're running general ledger and journals from our WIP for the practice, then we recommend that the period audit process is used. It will ensure that there is no movement on accuracy from period to period with WIP. You'll see that the red periods are being closed and the green is open. Select the month that you need to close, right-click and close the period. The audit movement summary will be available and it can be reprinted at any time. This now completes the WIP period end. Now let's take a look at the debtors month-end processes. Step 5. Open your debtors application. You'll notice that the debtors notification will come up that your period has overrun. The message will appear every time until the debtors period is rolled over. This will only come up once the calendar period or your debtors period end has passed. Ensure that all the batches for debtors have been entered, completed and posted. Again, you can use your filter options by date and by status to ensure that they have all been posted. Step 6. Integrity check. We recommend before any reports are printed for debtors is to run the integrity check. We also recommend that this is done on a daily basis after your receipt entry. It will go through and check all the debtors' transactions and ensure they are allocated correctly. Refer to your workbook for more information. Step 6. Reporting review. At this point in time, if you're just a practice management user, then you will need to print your debtors' age balances. This can be reproduced in Practice IQ before or after the rollover. If you're also not familiar with the reconciliation process between WIP and debtors, you can run the reports at this point in time. You would add up all your source of fees from your debtors reports and balance that back to your WIP period audit. Again, this is included in your workbook for more information. At this point in time, we also suggest if you're running statements that this would be the time to do this. Step 8, run your statements. If you're running statements by correspondence, this would include the bulk emailing of sending out statements. It would be done here. Complete your statement process. Step 9 is to run your debtors period end. So statements are done, all the reports are printed, you are now ready to do the actual period end. In here, it will go through and list the steps again. It will check if you've got the next debtors period. Active feed batches. As I said earlier, it is optional whether they are still active. In other words, you've decided as a practice that the month-end rollover is happening at this moment. Any fees that are in draft or not posted will remain in the fees batch and they will be rolled over to the next period. They will not be included in your debtors period at this point. You have the option to go and view those details here to ensure that you've done that. If you have missed posting some of the fees, you'll have to go back and redo statements, etc. I'm okay with this point, so I'm going to move on to the making sure that all our debtors batches are posted. We do request that you run another integrity check just to be certain that they are all allocated correctly. There was the option to printing those age analysis, which we have done. That could have been done by standard reporting earlier. The main thing that we must ensure that we do is the debtors control report. This must physically be printed. Within this process, you would run your report and you need to physically print the report. You don't have to physically print it to paper. It could be printed to your PDF docs printer. This is your control report that has all your transaction IDs for debtors. Once we update the debtors period, the opening balance will be created from this closing balance. Keep your debtors report and save to PDF. Once your report has been printed, you'll notice that that is by entity. Update your period audit. Successfully updated for your debtors audit. You'll see that the balance forward has been completed. Once that process is done, the rollover button will appear. Select it. The notifications here is making sure that there is no users currently logged on to Advance, that this is optional. Obviously large practices you would leave everybody running. For smaller practices and you're not familiar, it might be your first month end, you might make sure everyone's out of the system. In case something went wrong, you can go back to your backup. Again, it's not a mandatory option, it's just some advice. Once a year we ask for the advanced usage report. It will get sent through to Reckon APS. The audit log has been created for our database auditing and the period end has been successful. We've now successfully rolled over debtors into March. So what are our post-rollover checks? Now that we've completed our WIP and debtors rollover, we should go and check the following. From your timesheet administration area, you should ensure that the next timesheet periods are enabled. If they haven't been and you've controlled it this way, then you would enable the timesheets for the next period. If you enabled any GoAdmin security settings to disable people from posting, you would go and open GoAdmin and reinstate the user's posting rights. If you're a user of Practice IQ, then we would ask at this point that you go and ask the IT administrator to run a manual update of Practice IQ. And finally, once IQ has been completed or been updated, notify all staff that the rollover is complete and posting is now available in the current period. So what have our learning outcomes been in this video? We've understood what is needed to get ready for month end. We looked at the steps to complete WIP month end and complete the debtor month end. We've successfully completed the post rollover steps. On behalf of the Reckon Training Academy, we thank you for your time, and if you have any further questions, please refer to the information on your screen now.